So Nick, on the Outsider Club, the newsletter you founded, your tagline is "Call it like you see it." What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think, well, telling the truth is just cutting right to it, right? I think there's a lot of shenanigans and a lot of shysters in the junior mining space, and really in any early stage company space that is hard to prove, whether that's an early stage technology or whether that's something in the ground that you can't see, right? That's in another dimension. And so I think calling it like you see it really just cuts to the core of what the Outsider Club is all about, and that's giving people real information about real projects and real people that we see as good investments, not only for ourselves, but for the retail investors that follow us at Outsider Club.
Well, here at the New Orleans conference, you've shared the good, the bad, and the ugly of the industry.
We sure did.
What's the major ugly that we can hear from you about?
I think the ugly is lifestyle companies, and what I mean by that is these guys that go out and raise money and promote a story with no intention of ever really finding anything or developing an asset that's going to become a mine, and instead they raise money from shareholders, and a lot of money goes to either management salaries or to general and administrative costs, and not to developing an asset. And so they raise money from shareholders not to increase shareholder wealth, but to live a certain type of lifestyle, and I think that's really become entrenched in the junior mining space, and it's something that I've talked about for a bit, and my partner Gerardo Del Real has talked about for a bit, and even recently we saw John Pawson and company come out against this sort of managerial style in the gold space, in the junior mining space, where so much capital is destroyed because of the nefarious practices that I just described. So it's not just us, and I think a big wave is coming against things like that.
Well, let's talk about things that are actually not discussed at conferences like this. What are some unpopular topics that you think should deserve some more attention?
Yeah, I mean, we're here at the New Orleans Investment Conference. It's obviously rooted in James Blanchard and the hard money movement and gold and silver, but walking around the exhibit hall, there's lots of things here, from farmland investments. I think that's actually very important.
Farmland investments?
Yeah, everybody's got to eat. There's a couple companies over there where you can buy into shares of coconut farms or pineapple farms or coffee and cocoa farms, and I think that's a good alternative investment, a place to park some capital that generates routine and predictable returns without the volatility of a stock, and is in a sector that 6 billion and growing people need food, right, and water as well. And you and I had talked previously about the battery space. Everybody's really hot on lithium and cobalt, but at the end of the day, a lithium battery is really a nickel graphite battery. It's much more nickel and graphite in a lithium-ion battery than lithium, and so I think that's one thing that might not be booming right now, but I think that's one thing that people should keep an eye on that maybe they're currently not.
Right. Moving on, let's talk about Bitcoin and its relationship to gold, because they are both investment opportunities, but what's the pros and cons of both, especially for people that are in the younger generation?
Yeah, they're both alternative currencies. They're both alternative ways to make transactions. I think the blockchain has more merit at the current time than all these cryptocurrencies that are around. I know Bitcoin and Ether have greatly appreciated in price this year, but there's also thousands of other cryptocurrencies that are popping up. I mean, anyone can do an ICO. Burger King had an ICO. I mean, so how much value is there really if fast food chains are creating cryptocurrencies? I'm not sure that it's finite the way gold is. I mean, no one's making any more gold, but Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies are ones and zeros, so I think it's easy to make more of them. I also think there hasn't been any major hacking. We've seen a little bit of scandal with some ICOs, but I think that it's probably very susceptible to hacking. I mean, just look at the Equifax scandal that we just went through, and Yahoo had something like 300 million users hacked, or whatever that number was. And so I don't think it's been tested yet the way gold has for thousands of years. That's not to say that it's not an effective means of moving money back and forth, but like I say, I think focus on the blockchain for now and how companies are benefiting from that, and maybe not so much on the currencies themselves. And on the gold side, I think that gold's been proven for much longer than Bitcoin has, and I think maybe some capital has been distracted from gold by cryptocurrencies in the short term, but in the long term, I think
gold is the way to go.
I can hold it in my hand. I like that.
Yeah, it's physically there. Well, let's give our audience, lastly, an overview, market outlook from you.
What market do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the mining industry.
Oh, I think it's good times ahead for the mining industry. This conference has been the most upbeat I've seen it in the past 5 years that I've been here. I think it's a more diverse crowd. I've seen more women here, more younger folks. And I think that A lot of precious metals and base metals markets are debased, and energy metals as well, from uranium, which nobody is making money on at $20
Yeah.
a pound, to gold, which the major corporations have to replace the reserves in a big way. So, look, I think you'll see some precious metals major companies come into the market and start acquiring quality assets, and I think you have to see the price of uranium go up, and the base metals are obviously breaking out. Zinc is breaking out, copper is breaking out, and that relates to the electrification of everything, and the connection of everything. And so I think it's good times ahead. There's been a lot of pain across the board. Gold, silver, uranium equities are down some 70 to 90% in the past 5 years. And so I think there's a lot of upside ahead for patient investors who can vet quality companies with quality assets and to manage their share structure in a way that behooves all shareholders, not just those that are in first.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with our audience today.
Thanks, Rachel, for having me. I appreciate it.